So I am going to speak on something tonight, but however, I just wanted to ask, has anybody heard of Psalm 23, the Lord's my shepherd? You know the Vicar of Dibley, the Lord is my shepherd, actually, does anybody know what the Vicar of Dibley is? Okay, that's all right then. So the theme tune of the Vicar of Dibley is "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." Yeah, it's Tom. That's what I'm singing tonight. That's about it. So that's based on Psalm 23. So Psalm 23 is a beautiful psalm, but it's often read out at funerals. And I want to change that because although it is a peaceful psalm and it's lovely and it does bring people a lot of comfort in times of grief, I think that Psalm 23 has got so much more about it than funerals because there are so many incredible things in there. And basically, each verse, there's so much in there that I really wanted to communicate with you. And, you know, as always, it's not going to be a half an hour long sermon. I'm not here to do that to you. But I'm just going to go through week by week. I'm not going to do it all tonight. We'll be here until Christmas. But every week, whenever I'm speaking, we're going to do a verse a week so that we can just go through it together. And so the first one is actually really, really, really short. All it is "The Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing." In the song, it says, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." When I was a kid, I used to think that they were saying, "I don't want him," and I used to be like, "Oh, the blasphemy." I used to get really, really upset by it, but then my mum was like, "No, it's saying that they're not going to want anything because they have Jesus." I was like, "Oh, okay, that's all right then." But the newer translations is "The Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing." So we're going to look at those two things. The Lord is my shepherd, and I lack nothing. So let's look at the Lord as my shepherd. So shepherds back in the day, I think I've gone through this, touched on this a little bit, but shepherds back in the day were people who would obviously look after sheep and things, but it wasn't just a kind of day job. It wasn't just a log in, log out, get my pay, go home and do nothing. It was a lifestyle. When you became a shepherd, you were with these sheep constantly, to the point where you knew exactly what sheep was what. And you would know if one of them were missing. You would know your sheep so well that you would turn up to work one day and be like, "Oh my gosh, one of them's gone." Like, that's how often you were with your sheep. And they would be in any weather, day or night. Think like the worst Welsh weather you can think of. They were still out in the fields. They were still looking after their sheep. They would tend to them. They would look after them. They'd make sure that they get led to nice green pastures, which we will be coming on to in a few weeks. But the shepherd would be responsible for pretty much everything. All of the well-being of the sheep, the shepherd would be responsible for. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I spoke on a passage in Luke with the lost sheep. I don't know if any of you remember it, but I spoke on the lost sheep and how Jesus Christ leaves the 99 sheep to find the lost. And that is what a shepherd does. And so when we actually look at the verse, "The Lord is my shepherd," that isn't just saying that Jesus is standing there with a staff and he just sort of looks at you funny. No, a shepherd is involved in the sheep's well-being, in the sheep's life, in the sheep's day-to-day activities, in everything. And the sheep look to the shepherd for guidance and for support because they're sheep. Because I don't know if you've ever seen sheep before, where they get stuck in really crazy places. Have you ever seen that? Like where sheep can wander off and then they're on the side of a mountain and they can't get out, or they fall down a ditch or something. That's because the shepherd, well, obviously wasn't there at the time, and the sheep just sort of wandered off and went somewhere else. And so when we look at "the Lord is my shepherd," it's not saying "the Lord is my guardian" or "the Lord is my shepherd between 9 and 5. It's "the Lord is my shepherd," comma, because there's a bit coming after, but let's just pretend that's a full stop. "The Lord is my shepherd." And so what that means is that Jesus isn't just the kind of God that says, "Okay, I'm in your life now, that's really cool, but I'm going to go crack on with this. Just let me know if you need me. Give me a buzz, send up a hotline on the prayer. I will be here for you, but I'm kind of busy, so I'm going to go do this. But call me if you need me, always here. Give me a call." It's not like that. He is invested. He's like, "Okay, we've started this together. We're going to walk together. What can I do? How can I help? How can I support?" And when we look to him, it's kind of like, right, okay, I want to know what he has to say. Because when we become friends of Jesus, when we invite Jesus into our lives, it becomes a personal relationship. He isn't like a distant God that like sits in the clouds and is like, oh, you peasants. It's not like that. That's not the kind of God he is. He's a personal God. He's a God that actually has a relationship with us, a relationship where he equips us, he guides us, he gives us what we need, he protects us. Yeah? Now, listen, sheep will always get themselves into trouble, okay? It is what it is. But let me tell you something, okay? Sometimes, well, all the time, the shepherd, humanly speaking, will never be able to stop that sheep going into really, really difficult times, because the sheep is just going to wander off, because the sheep is just let out into the open. But that doesn't mean that the shepherd doesn't care. Because as soon as the shepherd realizes, oh my gosh, they've gone, he's straight out to find them. Straight out. And so when we become Christians, and I say when, because that's our prayer for you, when we become Christians, we start this personal relationship with God, but that doesn't mean that you're fireproof. That doesn't mean that you're waterproof. You're going to be having some really sticky situations, guys, where you're like, I'm really struggling here, and I don't know what to do with myself. I'm going through this, or I've done that, or they said this to me, and I'm really hurt, and I'm having these horrible thoughts, and all of these things. That doesn't mean he doesn't care. It just means that he's still with you. There's an amazing quote by C.S. Lewis, and it says this. It says, being a Christian is not the absence of difficulties, it's the peace within them. In other words, being a Christian doesn't make you fireproof. It just means that he's with you in the fire. He's the fourth man in the fire every time. And so that's the Lord is my shepherd. He's not an impersonal God. He is a personal God that wants to know you and is invested in your life and wants to know you more, and is longing for you to reach out and say, do you know what, I'm going to give Jesus a go. I'm going to give him a go. The second part, I lack nothing. Now, when we think that, it's like, okay, what does that mean? It means that, simply put, when you invite Jesus into your life, you will always have everything you need. Now, let me explain, okay? That's not me saying you need to sell all your clothes and you need to never eat again and you need to never drink again because Jesus is everything. No, that's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that when you're going through the fire, when you're really struck down, and when you just feel like you cannot go on anymore, you will be given what you need. You will. Kieran and I were speaking earlier about going through some really difficult stuff. But Kieran started a new job a couple of weeks ago. I'm laughing because I just remember what he said earlier. We were talking and he was like, basically, Kieran's gone to a new job. And it was quite unexpected, wasn't it, babe? It was kind of like, it just sort of popped up and it was like, I just need to go. So he left this job, and this job requires a lot more travelling. And so Kieran said, I'm not being funny, but I got up to Nottingham and I was like, what the heck am I doing here? And sometimes we can be in really, really horrible situations and we think, I'm completely on my own. But, as I know Kieran would say, he was equipped. It was like, no, I've led you to this place, I'm not going to leave you now. And so from that, Kieran ended up growing into his job that he's in now, and he loves it. And you might say, oh, that's a natural process, but I'm telling you now, we've been through the fire recently, and the fact that he's come out with a new job and is doing really well is a testament to the faithfulness of God. And so when we say, oh, the Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing, I'm not saying, like, I never eat and I never drink because Christ is my sustenance. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that in every situation, no matter good or bad, I have what I need. It's okay if people walk away from me. That's fine, because I've got Christ. And it's okay if people don't like me anymore because of Jesus, because I've got Jesus. Or it's okay when I'm feeling really sad and when I'm feeling really lonely, because I've got Jesus, because he's with me all the time, because he's my shepherd and he knows me. He knows my heart. Okay, so that's what we mean when we say, I lack nothing. Because I've had a couple of people, when they read those things, they're like, Chloe, I lack nothing. I'm not being funny, but if I don't have food, that I'm going to lack something. I'm going to lack strength. I'm going to lack brain power and all this. No, it doesn't mean that. It just means that Christ is your everything in that time. And as somebody who's always, I mean, we all go through really horrible things, but there is incredible sustenance and faithfulness and power in the name of Christ. And I want you guys to know that from a personal point of view, not just from somebody with a mic who loves Jesus. I am currently being sustained, and it's the best feeling ever, because I know that no matter what this world throws at me, it's okay. It doesn't feel okay, it doesn't feel good, but it's okay, because I know that I'm going to be given what I need, because I lack nothing. when I have Christ. He's everything I need. And so that's pretty much it.